Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive that might just rewire your thinking?
I'm ready.
Today we're tackling David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, this one's intense.
It's less about self-help and more about, unearthing your inner badass.
Definitely.
Goggins himself is a fascinating figure.
Absolutely.
He calls himself, quote, the weakest piece of shit turned ultra-marathon runner and Navy SEAL.
That transformation is mind-blowing.
And his story, it's not just about physical feats.
Right.
It's about this incredible mental shift he went through.
You can really feel that in the book.
He's totally upfront about his past.
Yeah, the poverty, abuse, racism.
Heavy stuff.
Definitely.
But he uses it all as the basis for his whole philosophy of pushing past limits.
Like he turned his struggles into fuel.
It's almost like he weaponized them, you know?
Yeah, I see that.
But there's this 40% rule he talks about.
Oh yeah.
That we only operate at 40% of our potential.
Big claim.
Makes you wonder what's holding back the other 60%.
Right. It's a good question.
What's your take on that?
Goggins points to a few things. Societal pressures to play it safe.
Yeah.
Fear of failure that keeps us from even trying.
Yeah, that one hits home.
And of course, the good old desire for comfort.
Comfort's a tricky one.
He argues we get addicted to the familiar even if it's not truly satisfying.
Oh, I feel that. Staying in jobs or relationships we know aren't right just because it's easier.
Makes sense though, right? Change is hard.
It is. But Goggins, he did the opposite.
Right.
Actively sought out discomfort, like training for a mental marathon or something.
He took it to the extreme. Even challenged a professor at MIT.
Whoa, really? What happened?
This professor was saying mental toughness has a genetic ceiling.
Like you're born with a limit?
Yeah. But Goggins, he argued there's always that 1% who defy the odds.
Through sheer will.
That our minds can be trained to shatter those perceived limits.
Interesting. Do you buy that 1% thing? I'm torn, honestly.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Part of me wants to be all, hell yeah, anything is possible with enough grit. But then there's that other voice, you know?
Yeah, the skeptic.
That says, come on, there's got to be some limit to what we can endure, right?
That's exactly what Goggins addresses. He uses this warrior analogy.
Oh, I've heard him talk about that.
Saying we all have this inner warrior, capable of incredible strength and resilience.
But we've kind of let it get weak.
Exactly. Chosen comfort over pushing ourselves.
So how do we wake up that inner warrior then?
That's the big question.
Is it all ultramarathons and ice baths like he does?
Not necessarily.
Because those sound a bit much for me personally.
Goggins gets that. He doesn't expect everyone to go to his extremes.
That's reassuring.
He focuses on mental toughness. That ability to control your mind when it's screaming, Q guy.
Which is basically all the time for me.
And he has techniques for that, like this idea of taking souls.
Oh yeah, gotta unpack that one.
Taking souls. Sounds intense.
Does it involve some spiritual battle or something?
Not exactly. It's more about pushing yourself to the absolute limit.
Okay, so physically and mentally.
Right, where you feel like you're leaving everything out there.
Like you have nothing left to give.
Yeah. He uses that metaphor to highlight the intensity needed to unlock your true potential.
So proving to yourself you're capable of way more than you thought.
Exactly. Like those times you surprise yourself by accomplishing something you thought was impossible.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Like when you finally finish that huge project you were dreading.
Exactly. But Goggins would say it's not about seeking pain just for the sake of it.
Makes sense. There's got to be a point to it.
It's more about using pain as a catalyst. Like how can you use it to grow?
But how much pain is too much pain?
That's a valid question.
I mean, there's got to be a line somewhere, right?
Goggins acknowledges that too. He's all about self-awareness, listening to your body, knowing your limits.
So not reckless abandon, but calculated risk.
Yeah, more like pushing past your comfort zone, but not into self-destruction.
That makes more sense.
But I'm curious.
Yeah.
What if there's another way, you know? Maybe some people are just wired for a gentler approach to self-improvement.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, not everyone thrives on intensity, right?
Right. And Goggins wouldn't say everyone has to follow his exact path.
So different strokes for different folks.
But he'd argue that the discomfort, that resistance we feel when pushing ourselves, that's where the real growth happens. Like a muscle, you got to work to make it stronger.
Oh, like no pain, no gain.
But in a sense, yeah. Have you ever achieved something you're really proud of without putting in some serious effort?
That's a good point. The sense of accomplishment after a tough challenge. There's nothing quite like it. But Goggins takes it even further, right?
He does.
He talks about this callousing the mind concept.
Yes.
What's that all about?
It's the idea that by consistently exposing ourselves to discomfort, physical or mental, we build mental resilience.
Okay, like actual calluses on your hands.
Exactly. The more we push through, the less those challenges affect us.
Like building a shield against negativity and self-doubt.
That's a great way to put it. But how do we actually start doing that?
Yeah, where's the starting line?
Goggins would say it's about finding challenges that resonate with you.
Not necessarily jumping into a freezing lake first thing in the morning.
Well, that could be it for some people.
Yeah.
But maybe for you, it's starting a creative project you've been putting off.
Yeah, I have a few of those lingering around.
Or having a tough conversation you've been avoiding.
Ugh, those are the worst.
Or even just sticking to a workout routine that's challenging.
So finding those soul-taking moments in everyday life.
Exactly. Consistently stepping outside that comfort zone, even if it's just a small step.
So baby steps count.
Absolutely. But Goggins goes beyond just do this, do that.
Right, he actually gives you a framework.
He lays out principles to guide our actions.
Like a roadmap.
Exactly. And it all starts with self-awareness. Really understanding your strengths, weaknesses, and the patterns that are holding you back.
So brutal honesty with yourself.
Exactly. It's about taking inventory of your mental baggage before packing for this journey.
Love that analogy.
And then it's about taking ownership.
Ownership of what?
Becoming accountable for your choices and their consequences.
Goggins is big on personal responsibility.
Huge. He'd say excuses are just a way of avoiding growth.
Okay, but are there ever times for valid excuses?
He wouldn't deny external challenges exist.
Like sometimes things really are out of our control.
But he'd argue that our response to those challenges is what defines us.
So focusing on what we can control.
Yeah, exactly. Our mindset and actions. Not dwelling on what we can't change.
Shifting from a victim mentality to a warrior mentality.
That's a great way to put it.
From why me to watch me.
And this leads us to his cookie jar concept, which I think is brilliant.
Cookie jar. All right, now I'm intrigued.
It's a powerful idea.
What kind of cookies are we talking here?
Imagine a jar filled with your past victories.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Those moments where you overcame adversity, achieved something tough, or proved yourself wrong.
Like a collection of wins.
Yeah, those are your cookies. Tangible proof of your strength and resilience.
Like a mental trophy case, basically.
Exactly. And when you're facing a new challenge, feeling doubt creep in.
Which happens to the best of us.
You reach into your cookie jar, pull out a memory of past success. Use it to fuel your current effort.
It's like giving yourself a pep talk based on real evidence. I love it.
Right. It's not just empty positivity. It's based on what you've actually done.
So how do we build this cookie jar? Do we just start hoarding every tiny achievement?
It's about recognizing those moments when you pushed past your comfort zone.
When I did something I didn't think I could.
Exactly. Finishing that presentation you were dreading.
Been there.
Finally running that 5K.
Still working on that one.
Those are your cookies.
So each time we step outside our comfort zone.
You're baking a new cookie for your jar.
I like that.
And the more cookies you bake, the more resilient you become.
The less those challenges scare you.
Right. You start building this unshakable belief in yourself.
Belief that you can overcome obstacles.
That's the key. This is starting to paint a different picture of self-improvement.
Yeah, it's not just affirmations and vision boards. It's about action.
It's about creating evidence of your own strength and resilience.
And that's what Goggins wants, right?
He wants us to stop doubting ourselves, stop settling.
And embrace the discomfort that comes with growth.
It's a challenge, but it's worth it.
So you're saying a little suffering is actually a good thing.
Maybe not good,
but necessary.
Goggins makes the case that it's the key to unlocking our potential.
That's a pretty radical idea. I mean, most self-help is all about seeking happiness, avoiding pain.
He's flipping the script. He's saying by avoiding suffering, by staying comfortable, we're actually depriving ourselves.
Depriving ourselves of what?
The opportunity to discover our true strength and resilience.
Wow, that's deep.
It makes you think, right? Maybe we've been approaching self-improvement all wrong.
Maybe it's not about constant happiness and ease.
Maybe it's about embracing the struggle. Knowing it's through those challenges that we really figure out who we are.
Yeah.
That's the heart of his message.
He's not promising a pain-free path.
He's saying pain is inevitable. It's how we respond to it that matters.
It's about using pain to fuel our growth.
Exactly. This is making me rethink my whole approach.
Me too. Maybe I need to add a little more grit to my self-improvement routine.
A little soul-taking, maybe.
Haha, maybe. But before we get too deep into the practical stuff, let's take a quick break.
It's good.
All right, so we've talked about how a little discomfort can be, well, good for us. But how do we actually use these taking souls and cookie jar ideas, like in a way that feels actually, doable?
Right. Got to make it practical.
Exactly.
Goggins really stresses that it's not about copying him exactly.
Which is a relief because some of his stuff is wild.
It's about finding your challenges, the things that push you past your limits.
So personalized challenges.
Right. For one person, that might be running a marathon. But for another, it could be learning a new language or having that tough conversation they've been avoiding.
So tailoring the challenge to our individual, strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And remembering that the struggle itself is the point.
Wait, the struggle is the point.
Goggins believes that it's in those moments of intense effort, when you want to quit but don't, that's where you discover your true potential.
Okay, I can kind of see that. But isn't there a risk of taking souls thing too far? What about burnout? Or even injury if you're always pushing to the breaking point?
That's where self-awareness and listening to your body are crucial. Goggins isn't advocating for recklessness.
Good, because I'm not signing up for any broken bones.
He emphasizes knowing your limits, pushing yourself strategically, and prioritizing recovery.
So it's like finding that balance between pushing and pacing yourself.
Exactly. And remember, he's an elite athlete. His breaking point is going to look different from yours or mine.
That makes sense. But how do we know if we're actually pushing far enough? I mean, some people might think cleaning their entire house in a day is a soul-taking experience. Others might need to, climb Mount Everest to feel that same level of intensity.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
What feels intense for you might be a walk in the park for someone else.
So how do we gauge it then?
The key is to find activities or goals that genuinely challenge you. Things that make you want to quit, but also spark that fire in your belly.
That fire of determination.
Yes. And this is where the cookie jar comes in handy.
Okay, how does the cookie jar help us figure out how hard to push?
Think about it. When you look back at your cookie jar, those past experiences where you push through and achieve something meaningful.
Those moments I was talking about before.
Yeah. You start to recognize the feeling, the signs that you're on the right track. It's like, this is hard, but I know I can do this.
Oh, so the cookie jar is like a guide. It helps us measure our own growth and figure out what level of challenge to aim for.
Exactly. The more cookies you have, the better you understand what you're capable of.
And what kind of challenge you need to really, level up.
And as you build your cookie jar, you'll notice patterns. You'll see what types of challenges really push you and what strategies help you overcome them.
This is starting to sound way more personalized than a lot of the self-help stuff out there. It's not a one-size-fits-all formula. It's about discovering your path to growth.
That's what I love about Goggins' approach. He's not handing us a prepackaged solution. He's giving us tools and principles that we can adapt to our own lives, goals, and values.
He's like, here's the toolbox, now go build something amazing.
Exactly. It's empowering.
But this whole embracing suffering thing is still a bit of a head-scratcher for me. Most self-help advice is all about being happy, finding joy, avoiding pain. Goggins seems to be saying the opposite.
He is challenging us to think about suffering differently. He sees it as an inevitable part of life.
Like death and taxes.
Pretty much. And he argues that by avoiding suffering, by staying in our comfort zones, we're missing out.
Missing out on what?
On the chance to grow stronger.
So it's not about seeking pain for the sake of pain, but about recognizing that pain can actually transform us.
Precisely. Think about it. Have you ever experienced real personal growth without going through some kind of discomfort?
I mean, it's usually those tough times that force us to change, right?
Right. Breakups, job losses, even physical injuries.
They force us to confront our weaknesses.
And to develop resilience and discover strengths we didn't know we had.
It's like we have to break down a little to build ourselves back up stronger.
Exactly. But Goggins takes it a step further with this idea of callousing the mind. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Yeah, the blacksmith analogy.
Right. It's a blacksmith hammering a piece of metal.
With each blow, the metal gets stronger.
Exactly. And Goggins wants us to do that with our minds. By repeatedly exposing ourselves to discomfort, we're essentially hammering our minds, making them stronger and more resilient.
So it's about building mental toughness to be able to handle anything life throws our way.
Exactly. Developing a bring-it-on mentality.
Yeah.
And the more we push through tough experiences, the less power they have over us.
It's like those calluses on the blacksmith's hands. They protect him from the heat and the blows.
And we can build those same calluses on our minds. This is starting to make a lot more sense now. It's not about enjoying pain. It's about recognizing that pain and discomfort and struggle, they're just part of life.
And instead of fearing them, we can use them to make ourselves stronger.
Exactly. What's really empowering about this is that it puts you in control. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're actively participating in your own growth. You choose the challenges. You push yourself.
Yeah.
And you reap the rewards.
So it's a shift from life is happening to me to I'm shaping my own life.
That's it. But how do we translate this into action?
Right. Not everyone's going to be running ultramarathons or doing Navy SEAL training. What can the average person do to apply these principles?
That's where Goggins' emphasis on self-awareness and goal setting is key.
So knowing yourself and what you want to achieve.
He encourages us to identify those areas where we're settling for comfort, avoiding challenges, letting fear hold us back.
Step 1 is to get real with ourselves. Pinpoint those areas where we're playing it too safe.
Yes. And then it's about setting goals, specific, challenging goals that push us beyond those self-imposed limitations.
So maybe starting that side hustle you've been dreaming of.
Or having that tough conversation with a loved one.
Or finally committing to a workout routine. And it's not just about the big life-altering stuff, right?
Right.
Taking souls can be about smaller choices, too.
Absolutely.
Like waking up an hour earlier to work on a personal project or choosing a healthy meal instead of takeout.
Those everyday choices, when they're pushing you a little, they show your commitment to growth.
So every time we make that tougher choice, we're basically taking souls on a smaller scale.
Yes. You're showing yourself you have the discipline and the willpower to overcome your weaker impulses.
And those small wins, those moments of self-mastery, they're what fill our cookie jars.
Exactly. Each little challenge you conquer adds to the evidence that you're capable of great things.
This is starting to feel like a much more realistic and sustainable way to approach self-improvement.
It's not about punishing yourself or constantly seeking pain.
It's about understanding that discomfort and challenge, they're necessary for growth.
And celebrating those small victories along the way.
Those moments when you push past your limits and surprise yourself with your own strength.
Goggins really highlights the power of personal experience. It's not just about reading about self-improvement. It's about going out and creating your own proof of what you can do.
So it's about building that confidence in yourself, that inner knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way.
And that brings us to another key aspect of Goggins' philosophy. Finding your purpose.
Oh, yeah, we were going to talk about that. It seems like this idea of purpose is really important to him.
It is. He believes that having a clear sense of purpose is essential for unlocking your full potential.
So purpose. Why is it so important to Goggins?
He sees it like a compass, guiding your decisions, your actions.
Giving you direction.
Exactly. It's the fuel for those soul-taking moments, the motivation to push past your limits and actually achieve something meaningful.
So it's not just about pushing for the sake of pushing, but connecting those efforts to something bigger.
Right. It's got to have meaning, purpose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Goggins says it's easy to just get caught in the daily grind, settle for mediocrity, lose sight of what truly matters.
It's like wandering through life without a map, just going through the motions.
He makes the point that finding your purpose isn't about some predetermined destiny or anything.
Like it's not already written out for us.
Right. It's more about figuring out what lights you up, what makes you feel alive, what you want to contribute to the world.
So creating your purpose, not just finding it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you actually do that, though?
Yeah.
Goggins talks about self-reflection, asking yourself some tough questions.
Like what?
Think about your values. What are you naturally drawn to? What problems in the world do you feel like you need to solve? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Whoa, those are big questions. But I guess figuring out your purpose, that requires some serious soul searching.
It does. It's about getting honest with yourself.
Yeah.
But for someone who's feeling lost, where do they even start?
Yeah. Those questions can be overwhelming.
Goggins would say, start small. What brings you joy?
What makes you lose track of time? What gets you energized and engaged?
Those are the clues. Those moments can tell you a lot about your passions and interests.
So pay attention to those moments when you're feeling truly alive, whether it's playing music or volunteering or just being out in nature.
Exactly. Then you can start exploring those things further. Maybe take a class, read books, connect with people who share those passions.
It's like you're following a trail of breadcrumbs.
And trusting that it'll lead you somewhere good.
But what if you try a bunch of things and still feel lost?
Goggins wouldn't see that as a failure.
Really?
He sees it as part of the process, figuring out what doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that finding your purpose is a journey, It's not like you just arrive one day and you're done.
So embrace the uncertainty. Trust that the more you explore, the closer you'll get to something that truly fits.
Right. And know that your purpose can change and evolve over time. It's not a fixed point, but a direction you're moving in.
That takes a lot of pressure off.
I think so too. And Goggins would say that all of this journey of discovering your purpose, it's tied to his other principles.
Pushing your limits, embracing discomfort, building your cookie jar.
All of it. It all works together.
So it's like a feedback loop. The more you push yourself, the more you learn about yourself, and the clearer your purpose becomes.
And the clearer your purpose, the more motivated you are to push yourself even further, to overcome those challenges, to achieve something truly meaningful.
It keeps building on itself.
He'd say each time you push past your comfort zone, each time you achieve something you thought you couldn't, it adds to your evidence that you're capable of living a purpose-driven life.
That's a cool way to think about it. Like each win, each cookie in the jar is a step towards that bigger goal.
And I think that's the ultimate message of his book. He's not just teaching us how to be tougher. He's challenging us to design a life that's fulfilling.
This deep dive has been pretty mind-blowing. So what do you hope our listeners walk away with?
I hope they remember that they are capable of so much more than they think.
Yeah.
That embracing discomfort, pushing their limits, it leads to growth. And that finding their purpose can truly fuel their journey.
It's like Goggins is saying, what are you waiting for? Get out there and live your life to the fullest.
Exactly. What's one thing you've been playing it safe with? What's one challenge you've been avoiding? What one step can you take today to move closer to that purpose-driven life?
Powerful questions.
Remember, the path to greatness isn't always easy. It takes struggle, resilience, and a belief in yourself.
If you're ready to unlock your inner warrior, embrace the discomfort, and create a life filled with purpose, David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me is a must-read. It's a call to action to step up, push yourself, and discover the incredible strength within you. Until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and keep filling those cookie jars.